here today with Ryan Worswick, aka Hecka Nice is his other personality online, and he is your friendly tech helper musician. And a lot of you have probably seen him around on our Facebook community helping everybody out with their tech problems, and he's here to help me out today with OBS. So welcome, Ryan.
My absolute pleasure. OBS is a treat. It'll set you free. Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca.
So then, okay, so you have 3 cameras, and then you have your classroom maestro there in the middle. Is that what that is? Yeah.
Yeah, and if I want to, so sometimes, like, often with the littles in particular, I'll usually start a lesson with just, like, kind of rapid-fire flash thing. And so for that, I actually have it set up where I can just drop this on, like, all right, quick, fast as you can, what's that note? Or, you know, quick, fast as you can, what's that note? And
Yeah.
do that kind of a thing. Or if we want to, like, for instance, some of the dozen-a-day exercises or something, I often have students, when they meet it, kind of struggle with this one. Just to get that switch from the G to the F on the top end of it.
And they can visualize everything.
Yeah.
And then you can give them an emoji for doing a good job.
But so this is my main scene, and then I have a few scenes that I'll bounce around on in lesson generally. So like this would be another one, and this is if I want to really show like a handshake thing, or like, so you know, if you're going to have this sort of minor chord shape or something, you're going to want to have this little flatter, not totally flat, but like blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha.
And it lends itself to that. Or if, you know, I want to talk about like thumb under stuff, like, okay, so we want to make sure that we have a nice limber thumb that's like reaching across under the palm.
So that's another camera you have set up there that's lower.
It's another scene that I have set up. Because if you notice, if we go back to the thing I was sitting on, that is just...
Oh, that is the same one. Okay, right. Yeah.
It's just now the whole screen, and then I've made my headshot just a little box.
So you can be more focused. Yeah.
Right. So it's something where, like, if I was in person, I might say, like, okay, look at this, or like stand up, look down, and I want you to just really pay attention to the kind of left-right motion you see, okay? And here I can essentially do that by just changing the scene.
Could you walk us through really quickly then, like, obviously downloading it, but then what's the next step to take?
Well, the next step is going to be when you open it up, the whatever auto configuration wizard or whatever they call it that pops up when you first open up OBS is going to ask you what you're using it for. Because it's originally built as whatever broadcasting software.
Yeah.
That's the beat. But they'll give you the option of basically, are you mostly recording? Are you mostly live streaming? Or is this mostly a virtual camera? And so just make sure that you select virtual camera if you're going to be using it for something like this. And if you don't, for whatever reason, your hand slips or you just don't think about it and then you're like, wait a second, I'm not using it this way. You can go back. Let's see, it may have to be that I'll have to show you. Just a second. May have to show you my whole screen to do it because it might just be in the controls up top. I think it is. So let me change sharing here. But basically, you can run that wizard again.
Okay.
So like if we were to go look at this and I go up here, make sure that I'm selected into OBS somewhere through it. Yeah, so you can see auto configuration wizard. So you can run it again ultimately if you don't do it the right way the first time. But basically set it up for virtual cam and it'll turn all the other things so that it works best that way. What OBS looks like to me. And so you can see whatever list of scenes over here.
Yep.
Mostly I either use this one, which I use this one for math. And then this one is what we're talking about. And if I want to, this is kind of a nice thing, I can get it to whatever reset its light level.
What does CM stand for? Say it again?
Classroom Maestro.
Oh, Classroom Maestro. Okay.
Yeah, and so basically it's headshot is HS, Left hand is LH, OH is overhead. When I was at the last house, I had enough space such that I had a whatever right hand mic stand set up with a gimbal on it.
Okay.
So that's the RH. So those are like, if I click over to one of those, this is why the black spot is because there is no fourth camera here at the moment.
Right.
And so instead, like what I'll do usually if I want to show something relative to the right hand is either just pull it down to this end, or what I essentially switch everything over such that it be the same motion but backwards with the left hand and show it that way.
Gotcha.
In any case, but so I have these whatever various scenes, and the more complicated ones down here, for instance, would be like if I wanted to look at what I end up doing. This is true. My experience with image capture sources like this is that I have to go in every time and reselect the one I want it to be looking at.
Oh.
But then otherwise I can end up with something like this, where we can be looking at the music as we go along.
Is this off your iPad?
No. Which part?
The music.
No, that's just I have it sitting around on my house. We did the music artistry project out in Washington recently, and so we just submit sheet music for each of the students.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're just sharing a file.
Yeah, so basically, like looking at this one as an example, because all the other ones you can see for the most part, the sources are all camera sources with the exception of Classroom Maestro stuff, right? And so those are all, I think, window captures. In terms of like when we're adding a source or whatever, you have this list of options. You have these different things, images. Display capture. Have you figured out display capture yet? What it's doing?
No.
So it's sort of like you pick an app, let's say. Sure. That'll do. And then once we create, oh goodness, once we create that, we have to end up cropping it. It's pretty funky. And then,
The infinite loop.
Plug in numbers here and it starts doing things. I think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. That's maybe a little more complicated, isn't it? Other way. Oh yeah. So you can see the icon has changed, right?
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and get rid of that display capture and never think about it. We're going to go look for window capture, what I meant it to be. And this is a little more straightforward. This is something where you basically pick your window. So let's say, and then we can sort of resize it the way we want to. And in my opinion, the really hot tip in OBS when it comes to resizing your sources is that if you hold the option button, you can change its parameters without changing its size.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world. That's how I get the keyboard to be the size that I want it to be without all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And likewise, it's if you wanted to just look at, say, this one line here, like, okay, so when we return to this initial theme here, blah, 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 you can do that.
That's great. And so you're just clicking option and then using the mouse, and that's on your Mac though. Would it be the same on Windows?
It would be Alt on Windows.
Okay. And then you go into scenes, and all you're doing is you're pressing the plus button.
Call it S for 2 or something. So now this brings up our empty scene. And when I say empty, obviously it's black screen, but otherwise you can see the sources list that's right next to it is empty. So from there, I would want to start adding the things I'd want to show up in the scene. So probably for our purposes, I want to show first and foremost a video capture. I can add an existing one, or if I have a new one, I can do that. I'm gonna just use that. Well, I mean, there's no reason not to have headshots.
So that little pop-up is not coming up for me to see on my end because you're only sharing a window right now.
So
but
here, in that case, let me go into full screen for my
okay.
sharing, and you should see it there. And then this way, I go over here. So now you still see that this is empty.
There we go.
So I don't see, because I've got it full screen, I don't see our communication anymore. So let me know if you're not seeing anything.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Cool. So now we see this list. I add a video capture. Now do we see this list?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's say I'll call this one whatever, headshot 2 or something.
Mm-hmm. You should be able to press the pop-out video too at the top, and then you can see me while you're screen sharing in Musicology. If you care about that, but that's okay.
I'll leave it alone for now.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to it.
Yeah, no worries.
But anyway, so in here then, you basically would have the opportunity to pick what you want to pay attention to. So I can actually use the OBS virtual cam. I don't think it's doing anything at the moment because it's just showing a black screen. But it's a sort of recursive thing, so don't worry too much about it. So this is an example. This is the phone, or this is the phone that is currently normally using Reincubate Camo. What that means is Camo sends a clean video feed when it's selected as the camera. But if I just select the phone, so like, notice what disappeared there. And then if I go back to the direct feed from the phone, notice what comes back.
The gray bar.
Green dot, you start to see this question mark, you see the active thing.
Yeah.
And that's just the difference between a direct, like, this is the screen on your phone right now, versus this is something manicured.
Okay, I get what you're saying, yeah.
And so then that's why for these other phones, if I'm looking at them, they don't have any of that because of that clean feed ad that we were talking about. So whatever one you pick, let's keep this one just for the weirdness of it, I suppose. I don't really ever mess around with the used presets, though. I would just leave it as it is.
Yeah.
I don't really ever mess around with this resolution stuff. Most things aren't going to take anything higher than that anyway. But once you've selected that, then it's in your scene. And if we want to stop seeing it, we just click that eye down here. If we want to lock it in place, we click that lock right there, and then I can't move it around anymore.
Perfect.
And
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Right? It's
yeah.
OBS sat on like a to-do list for me for probably 4 months.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I don't have time to like figure it out. I don't have time to get into the depths of yet another program or whatever. And it takes like maybe 20 minutes to get super comfortable with, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would have, like, that would be, let's say, our first thing. And then let's say, I don't know, what do you feel like adding? What do we want to put on here? Do we want to put an image? We could do that.
Yeah, or your overhead piano. I like, yeah, the overhead piano and of yourself, and then an image of a piece of music. Let's try that.
So what we can do for the overhead here, first and foremost, let's clean this up so we don't really need, let's say if this really is going to be used as my headshot, we don't really need any of this stuff to the side.
Yeah.
So we can shrink that down.
So you're doing that again by pressing Option, and then you're using your mouse. Sorry about my dogs. Can you hear that barking?
I mean, yes, but it doesn't bother me at all. It's not.
I think they saw a squirrel outside or something.
They're just dogging around. But anyway, so yeah, that's like the big difference between why it's shrinking or getting larger here versus why the proportions of it are changing here. Is just, well, the proportions are changing. That's because I'm holding that Option button, or if it were a PC, the Alt button. And when I'm not, then when I drag, it's just resizing the entire thing. So let's say I wanted to set that up here. And I didn't want to accidentally move it again, so I hit that lock. And then let's throw in an overhead. So we would want to do another whatever video capture device. Throw in overhead 2. Kind of bit misspelling. And once again, my first thing I have to do is pick a camera source. So, overhead, yeah.
Dimitri.
Shostakov.
You name your phones.
Yep, Bella Bartok, Dimitri Shostakovich.
I get it now. I was like, why is your camera named Bella?
Bella Bartok. I was in a movie when I named them all. So something to notice, I added this extra source and suddenly our other one is gone.
Yep.
And if anybody's ever used a program like Photoshop or whatever, you might know why already. But these things all operate on a layering basis. And what I mean by that is if you watch the sources tab right here, this like whatever column right here, if I drag this underneath that, that's the difference. So whatever is on top of the list, that is the, like, it's literally considering it like a stack of papers.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you start locking things, that's where it all just sort of like flattens it into one thing.
Right.
So maybe I pull this out so it fills out the screen and then lock it there. And then maybe now my head's in the way, so I can unlock that tab and then drag it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably oversized in my opinion, because if I were to sit here and actually do something, my left arm is still pretty much obscured.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably either shrink it down and leave it there, like at least so I'd get that. You can kind of see elbow motion and things like that.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Or I think for a while I had it set like this, because I felt like that kind of kept it most out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are some obviously strange elements of that. Mostly it just draws the eye to the eye. So I put it in the corner instead. And then let's say we wanted to add, something else. Maybe it's something we want to add, like a little flare or something. And so we throw in a treble clef.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I wouldn't use this particular one for a number of reasons, not least with its white background. But at least we can kind of clean it up, make it less obtrusive in that way.
And you can add a transparency filter too. I figured that out.
Exactly. So you can do it's got lots of nice sort of customary control things.
Yeah.
That you can sort of play with, but that's really almost entirely gravy, if you know what I mean by that, where it's like the sort of meat and potatoes are what we've already done.
Yeah.
Which is like figure out how to start a scene in the first place, which is as simple as just hitting the plus button.
And so now this is one scene. And so how do you save this as a scene?
As long as
it's already there, because you've
select it and hit the minus button to remove it, it's just on my list of scenes from now on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Make this real quick.
Well, this was super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm going to stop the recording.